Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Valente, and let me bring in my co-host, Travis Aurednik. We are the Saturday Night Hockey Podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight is our season preview, but before we get too deep into this, we'll kind of go into who we are and why we're hockey fans and why we support the teams we do. So I'll start. My name is Dave Valente, as I said. I am a hockey fan since 1992. I've been following the Buffalo Sabres, and I originally followed the Buffalo Sabres when I was living in New Mexico, of all places. I didn't watch hockey when I was growing up. My dad thought it was too violent because I was, back in the 70s when they were having line brawls and all that stuff. I loved it. So when I got off to college, I started watching hockey every night. That was the year that ESPN started showing games. And the first game I watched was Boston versus Buffalo, and it was McGilley and LaFontaine. Actually, it's 91. McGilley and LaFontaine, and they were lighting it up. And I've been hooked ever since. So that's how I got to be a Buffalo Sabres fan in the state of New Mexico. What about you, Travis?
That sounds like you got a pretty sore deal. Yeah, Boston would have won that game. You'd be a lot happier, man.
No.
No, I also became a hockey fan in college, 2016 for me. And I actually lost a coin toss for center ice. It was me and my roommate. We were going half and half on the center ice package, and neither of us had any money. And the deal was we were going to flip. If he won, I was a Coyotes fan for life regardless. If I won, he had to watch the Penguins for a season. So he got me, and I've honored it ever since. And as much as I hate my team, I love them.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Like, it grows on you. So we're going into this odd season, the 2021 NHL season, and this season is like no other season before. We're going to have new divisions. We're going to have a shorter season because of the pandemic. Normally, the season starts in October, runs through April, and then the playoffs start. But this year, we're going to start in January and run until May, and then have the playoffs go into July. So let's talk about some of the changes that are going to go into this season. We're going to go to a 56 game schedule, which is about 2/3 of the normal schedule, an 82 game schedule. I'm not really fantastic at math. Somebody probably correct me on the overall percentage of the season, but that's basically what it is. We have 4 divisions like we did before, but they are completely different. The nation of Canada has put in some restrictions on travel so that we couldn't have like the Atlantic Division with Buffalo or with Boston or with Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, and so you had to reevaluate the divisions, and we've gone to an Eastern Division, a Western Division, Central Division, and a North Division. The North being the all-Canadian division. And we'll go over which teams are in which division. But I will, right now, I will tell you, I will not use the corporate sponsorship name for any of these divisions. What do you think about these division names, man?
Man, I think that we really got shortchanged on this one. We decided that we were okay with throwing a label on the helmets, and they slid that one in under.
I know. Like,
it's one of those when does it stop things. We're going to be looking like the KHL within 5 years,
Oh, man. Yeah.
Swiss National League with logos on the shoelaces.
Yeah, exactly. Now the North Division is our Canadian division. We've got Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. Did I miss a team there? I think that's it. Yeah. So it's a 7-team division. It's actually the only 7-team division because we have not had our 32nd entry into the NHL play yet. And that's the impetus why they've done this short season and stopping when they are is because they want to start the season next year on time with our newest team in Seattle. But that's to be seen. We'll see how the pandemic works out and how teams are able to cope with any COVID diagnoses like football has. So
Yeah, and also an interesting thing that's already happened with COVID that's already hit is Nashville, or not Nashville, I'm sorry, Dallas will be starting their season a few days later than scheduled.
Oh,
They've actually got 6 sure thing. By way of the reports, they're saying stars. It's players, coaches, and staff. I'm not sure exactly who all it is,
okay.
but they're going to be starting on the 19th, I believe, which is the reason for that short night that we've got coming up. We've got that one game night. It's
Yeah.
supposed to have been Dallas and one more, but it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to line up when we get close to playoffs. I mean, if we've got active COVID cases, I don't know if that deadline for playoffs to be over is actually going to hold.
Well, I think if there's significant issues, because it is a very tight schedule, very tight turnaround going all the way until May. But if they do have issues with the schedule and multiple teams having issues getting games in, I think they'll end up doing what they did with this last season. Is they'll end the season and then they're going to go off of points percentage in games. That's why you saw teams like Montreal make the playoffs, while Buffalo didn't do it this last year. Um, so yeah, I mean that's probably what's going to happen with those with the schedule if there is a major outbreak that unless it's like you know COVID gets 10 times worse than it is now, and then they just they stop everything. I don't see that they're going to do that, but there's always a point that could happen. Not only are the divisions changing, but we're also seeing changes in the playoff structure. Um, and that's necessitated because you have different divisions. But unlike last year, where we ended up with the 24 teams making the playoffs, the play-in round, those things are gone. We now are reverted back to the 16-team playoffs. Those first 2 rounds are done by division, just like the previous years. Unfortunately, you don't have wild card teams. All you're going to have are the top 4 teams in each division making the playoffs. The first round will be seed number 1 versus seed number 4, and then seed 2 versus 3 in best of 7 series. So we're back to best of 7 series for all of the rounds. And then the semifinals the semifinals will be the 4 division winners, and the finals will be the winners between those 2 games. In that semifinal round, they're going to reseed based off of points gained in the season. So you're going to have, whoever wins the President's Trophy is going to host the division winner that has the least number of points or points percentage. Are you okay with that playoff formulation?
I mean, I think for the given situation, it's probably the best we're going to come up with. I don't think there's any complaints that can be had with it.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, I can't come up with anything better. At least we're getting 7 games. That's my big thing. If
Yeah.
they went to 5 games, I would have had a little bit more problem. Even if it was 2 wild cards in 5 games, I wouldn't have liked it as much as this because, honestly, for the way they've got these divisions split up, you've got absolute top, and then you've got absolute bottom for 2 of them. But for the other 2, there's a few guys in the middle, but it's not anybody that's going to matter.
Yeah. So now that we've gotten through the playoffs, I think the Stanley Cup Finals will be interesting if there's still travel restrictions with Canada, because you could that'd be the semifinals and the finals, because you could see a team like Toronto or Montreal or something like that making it, but then having issues going back and forth. So you might end up having to have that Canadian team playing their entire semifinal and final rounds played in the United States.
Yeah. That's what I would say is probably going to end up happening.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like, if it's Toronto, then you'd have them playing in Buffalo, just
right.
to make it close to the fan base. So let's take a look at some of the biggest offseason acquisitions. I think the 3 biggest that I've seen were Taylor Hall going to the Sabres. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I know I didn't. And I follow the Sabres pretty religiously, and I remember seeing the text Taylor Hall signs a 1-year deal with Buffalo, and I was like, what?
We didn't know where he was going, but we're not complaining.
Yeah.
Hall was a good dump for us and a good acquisition for you guys. I think you'll like Buffalo.
Well, and I think the best thing about Hall, and I think I'm mixing this in with the acquisition of Eric Stahl as well, is that it does spread out the scoring. I think you put anybody on the line with Jack Eichel, they're going to have a great year. Victor Olofsson's had a phenomenal year. Jeff Skinner had a phenomenal year with Jack Eichel. Same thing is going to happen with Taylor Hall. I think they're going to play off each other really well. But it allows them to, have that secondary scoring line with Jeff Skinner and Sam Reinhart playing wings to Stahl. And, I think that line is going to be amazing. Will it push Buffalo over the top for playoffs? I'm not really sold on that. There are still too many questions, especially in goal for that team. But we'll talk more about that when we get to the team previews. The other two, Devin Taves getting stolen by the Colorado Avalanche. Joe Sakic is a magician when it comes to being a GM. He got him for a pick, I think, and because the Islanders are a little bit in cap trouble. And then Markstrom signing in Calgary, I think, gives them a level of confidence in net that they haven't had in years.
See, I never thought the Talbot was that bad in Calgary. I didn't have an issue with him. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what all three of them do in their new homes.
Yeah.
So, of course, you got Vancouver picking up Holtby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Holtby's interesting. I don't know. He had some down. There were some down times over the last couple of years in Washington for Holtby. If he can regain the form that he had, even that year that they won the Stanley Cup, he didn't go into the playoffs as the number one goalie for the Capitals.
Right.
It was Grubauer, and then after 2 games losing to Columbus, that's when they brought in Holtby to kind of rescue the team from the fire, and he caught fire. But over the last few regular seasons, he's had really bad issues, and has not been, has been pulled as a starter quite a few times. But they do have a great backup in Thatcher Demko. I think Thatcher Demko could possibly be the starter by the time the season's over if Holtby kind of holds true to his last few years' form.
Well, it could be a good 1A, 1B scenario too. I don't really think they're going to be too solid set on who's starting as much. Vancouver's always had a habit of doing a half game and a half game.
Yeah.
Whenever they've got somebody they can do it with.
They did it last year in the playoffs. Markstrom, they pulled Markstrom and they put Demko in, and he almost
Demko lit it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was. They were the ones who beat St. Louis, right? I mean, he carried them past St. Louis, and then they lost the next round. But
they got sunk hard on that.
Yeah. So let's start talking about the divisions then. So we're looking at let's start with the North Division. North Division, again, Canadian Division, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Who do you have coming out of that division?
I mean, I'm hard pressed to pick. I love Winnipeg's defense, and I think that Winnipeg this year, it's really going to depend on, is Scheifele going to stay healthy? He's been having knee issues, and it's been made known. I don't think he's missed any time over it. If we have that in Winnipeg, you've got Hellebuyck in net, and he is absolutely burning it down right now. Connor Hellebuyck is looking better every time you see him play. He hasn't even leveled off. I mean, the guy just keeps getting better. And then, of course, Vancouver, again, net issues. It's kind of the theme of the division right now. I don't think that Calgary's got anybody in net. Edmonton definitely doesn't. So it's going to be a score fest, It's going to be a lot of high scoring games. I think if I had to pick somebody out of it, though, it's going to be Toronto. I think Toronto's a safe pick. If I couldn't, it would be Montreal. Montreal's got a lot of firepower that they've been working on for a while that's coming up hot.
They do. Yeah, so like the four teams I've got coming out of that division are Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, and Vancouver. I think Markstrom, stabilizes Calgary. I think they address some of the issues in the team, and they play a lot better in front of him. Vancouver, again, Holtby, Demko, I don't think they go wrong either way. If Holtby starts falling off, then they've got Demko to fall on. But they've got Pedersen, they've got Quinn Hughes, they've got Horvat and JT Miller. I mean, they've got a really good, solid team to go forward this year, and I think that they'll probably nab that third or fourth slot out there in the North Division. But I agree with you. This is going to be a goal fest division. I don't envy any of the goalies in this division. You've got Toronto's lines. We haven't even talked about Joe Thornton being on the Maple Leafs. He's going to be on a line with not Connor McDavid, Austin
Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews.
Yeah. I mean, that's holy cow. That's a massive line. How much does Jumbo Joe have left in the tank, especially the way that the season's laid out? I don't know. I mean, he's 42, 43?
He's up there for the league. I don't see him staying on that line. I know they've been having him run it in practice, and I mean it's been pretty well reported on that it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's going to last more than 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Joe he's a really good two-way forward. I mean, there's nothing at all wrong with him. But as far as you've got super speed, super skill, and then slow old man.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, definitely see how long it lasts. But so I don't think it lasts because I think Toronto is going to be forced in a situation where it's this season is just back to back, a day off, back to back, a day off. That's kind of the way the schedule goes. I think and we'll see when we talk about Washington. You've got players that you're probably going to play maybe one of those games, but you're going to use a member off the taxi squad for that second game or for that first game because you don't want these guys just run into the ground before you get to the playoffs or when you get to the playoffs. Yeah, it's a shorter season, but man, you're putting 56 games into what you usually put 30 games into. This is a very tight schedule, and I think those players that really were they're older, they're wiser, they still have great skills. You're going to have to figure out how you conserve energy for those guys. But we were talking about how this is a goal scoring division. I mean, you got Draisaitl, McDavid, Toronto's first line, second line, really too. Montreal has I think Nick Suzuki is going to come up and be a spark plug for those guys. Scheifele in Winnipeg. I mean, they got guys that can fill a net in this division. Elias Pettersson.
Winnipeg's going to be so interesting to me, and really, it's the same story for Winnipeg as far as forwards go. Blake Wheeler's consistent. Nobody could ever complain about him. The guy's phenomenal. You've got Scheifele, love him. Mm-hmm. Is Laine going to show up this year?
Exactly. Or are they going to
he went to bed last year. All year last year, he was out, but he's still got the potential to be there. And actually, he was asked to comment on being traded just a few days ago, and his comment was, "I'm here." That was all he would say about it. He pulled a Marshawn Lynch. It was, "I'm here so I don't get fined for the interview." The guy doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I think the constant rumors about being dealt, I think, wearing the guy. I think there is an attitude issue with the guy. I don't know if I would – if you're going to get the guy that showed up as rookie season and lit it up, man, absolutely. I'll trade you all kinds of assets for him. But if I'm going to get the guy that's, should be watching from the press box eating popcorn,
He's acting like Brett Hull, you know. His head's got so big. I mean, he's so good he doesn't even have to play anymore. It's crazy.
Well, the problem is he does need to play because you know that great season was what 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, and it's getting old for Winnipeg. It has to. His contract comes up in 2 years. It doesn't matter if he wants to be there or not. He might as well make the most of it, make himself an asset, show other teams he's still got it, and actually go somewhere he wants to be on a decent contract.
Yeah, help out the Jets by helping yourself out by showing up, scoring goals, get assets in return for you to Winnipeg so that Winnipeg can move on. But yeah, that's if he keeps going the way he's going, Winnipeg's just not going to be able to get anything for him. They're not going to be able to move him. All right, so who do you think is going to be the top goal scorer out of that division?
Team or player?
Player.
Austin Matthews. I think that he's going to surprise everybody. I think that it's going to be Matthews all day. Edmonton, of course, you got McJesus and Draisaitl. I mean, I love them to death, man. I think that one of the biggest issues for Edmonton is going to be they have to play Toronto. They have to play Toronto 10 times, and Toronto has Freddie Anderson, and that's going to put a damper on McDavid and Draisaitl because he is a good goalie.
Sure.
Whereas, Matthews doesn't have to worry about that, and Edmonton doesn't have anybody in net, and the shortness of this season is going to make it such a priority. Every game matters so much.
Yeah, I don't have Edmonton anywhere near the playoffs this year. I'm not sold on them. I don't think they addressed any of their scoring issues, their secondary scoring issues. I don't think they addressed their defense issues. They didn't address their goaltending issues. I think that they are. If they make the playoffs, it is, basically Draisaitl and McDavid just dragging
one-line team,
dragging them across the line, and they won't be long for the playoffs at all. So, but yeah, I've until Edmonton actually does something with, balancing out the scoring on that team and their defense and their goaltending. I mean, there's just a lot of things for a team.
Swiss cheese. It's holes. The whole team is just holes.
What's amazing for a team that's had so many top draft picks, you can say the same thing about Buffalo. For the team that's had the top draft picks for as many years as Edmonton has, to have that many holes is malfeasance on the hockey operations staff there. Absolute malfeasance.
And the only thing Edmonton's good for, it's a blast to watch Zach Cassian fight, and McDavid's highlight reels look really good on the NHL to promote new viewership.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all that you're getting out of them.
Yeah. Because, he scores 5 goals and they lose 6-5. So
yeah.
It's
been consistent since 2015.
Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing player. It's just that you're wasting that talent by not getting him any help. And that was, that's the thing with Eichel too in the East, is that they've wasted so many years of his tenure in Buffalo by just spinning their wheels in the ground and not getting him the talent around him that he needs. Hopefully they've addressed that, but we'll see. Okay, so top goaltender in that division. What do you think?
I'm going to have to go Freddie Anderson. Again, I really like him. He last year in that one round that they got, he looked really good, and it's about time for him to grow up and actually start filling the net. He's at a good age, good prime age, and I could see him having a good tenure. I mean, they need another Potvin, in Toronto, and I think that's what he's going to end up being. I think he's going to be a serious asset to that team.
Nice. I agree. I think Markstrom, if he can get Calgary in the playoffs, I think he'll be the reason. But I don't disagree with Anderson just because that the Leafs are basically the only team in that division to have a semi-competent defense.
Right. Yeah, and I mean I see a lot of potential out of the Leafs defense. Even some of their more in-depth guys look really solid.
Yeah.
So, I think that the two non teams this year for that division are going to be Calgary and Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean Ottawa could make some noise early. I think they're not going to be as bad as they were last year.
The only thing in Ottawa making noise is Chuck.
Yeah, but I think that as the season wears down and people start focusing on the playoffs and they start ramping up that playoff level hockey, they're going to fall behind. But yeah, Ottawa's going to be a scary team here in a few years. They
I'd love to see it. I really would.
I was, when they had traded away that first round pick, they ended up going to Colorado, and then, thinking that they had just come out of the year where they were, overtime away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're trading away picks like that, and it turns out to be like the third, fourth overall pick. And they've lost all that thought. I thought, man, it's going to be a decade before we see Ottawa back there. But they credit to their GM. They wheeled and dealed and they pedaled and they got some really solid draft picks, and I think that they're on the right track.
Well, their pick this year, Josh Norris, phenomenal kid, looks fantastic. They're making good movements. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to get these guys to stick with them.
Yeah, I mean. Well, here the thing is, it's like the Sabres a few years ago. They, when Tim Murray was the GM, he decided to trade all these young players off to try and accelerate the rebuild, and that was the dumbest thing ever. I mean, you're talking about like JT Compher and oh God, what was the defenseman guy that was on Colorado?
McCarr.
Not Makar.
No,
Dorov.
Dorov.
They got rid of Grigorenko, but that was no big deal. I mean, he flamed out, went back to the KHL. But Braden McNabb. I mean, they're like a lot of these young players that they dumped and to accelerate the rebuild, and it just didn't work. So, all right. So let's move on to the Western Division, home of your team, Arizona Coyotes.
Sad as it is.
Yeah, so in the Western Division, we have Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, Los Angeles, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, and the Vegas Golden Knights.
From the top,
Who do you have that division?
Oh, it's Colorado.
Yeah.
I have Colorado all the way to the Cup, probably for a few years. I mean, Colorado is so stacked right now. It looks like a dynasty team. It looks like the start of, the '82 Oilers. It's insane.
I mean, it does look like a team that if you turned off the trade cap thing in NHL 21 and just pulled a bunch of all-stars onto your team, that's kind of what Colorado looks like.
Yeah, it's the Western Division All-Stars. It's insane.
Yeah.
The only place that I'm really concerned with is in net. I like Grubauer. I do. I think the biggest advantage that they've got is they have one team, maybe two, that they have to worry about offensively. Everybody else, there is no offense, there's no speed, there's no anything.
No, I mean you got all three California teams rebuilding. I think San Jose has remnants of the past and could do better than they did last year. I think last year was more of an aberration than anything with San Jose. But yeah, out of that division, Colorado far and away the best. Vegas is the only team I think that could give them a hard time. St. Louis, maybe I've got them in the 3 slot, and then really out of those other 5 teams, you could toss it up between Minnesota, San Jose. And I'm looking at San Jose more than Minnesota. I'm not real big on Minnesota. So, but yeah, that division, that really is a have and have not division because LA's got some, they've got Byfield, and they got some really good picks in this last draft. They had some good drafts prior. Those guys will start coming. They'll be a good team within this division, but they're probably going to regret being in the same division with Colorado.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch the lower class fight each other while
Yeah.
Colorado just takes the pick, man. I'm so confident in Colorado right now. I would draft the whole team for a fantasy league and still feel like I'm going to win.
Oh, I know. I had, our fantasy league. I took a bunch of Colorado Avalanche. You got McKinnon. I got Rantanen. I got Landeskog. I got McCarr.
Yeah, well, I got Kadri.
Uh,
Yeah, which I think this is going to be a breakout year for him. I think we're going to see so much out of Nazem Kadri this year. He's
a fantastic player. It's always the question with him is, can he keep his head on straight long enough?
Yeah.
To not take that dumb penalty that costs the team. I mean, he's done it in the playoffs for the Leafs.
Always a hothead. Always been a hothead.
If he can, temper that temper, he can be a phenomenal player, just an absolute steal. But if he, continues down that dumb road, I mean, he could end up like Matt Cook. I mean, it's just, that's the hard thing with Kadri.
And right now, the one super interesting thing about Colorado, the depth for their defense.
Yeah.
Wow. They've got so many young, fast guys. They got Tyson Yost recently.
Yep.
Absolute stud. They've got McCarr, of course. Easy top this year for defensive scoring.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody holding a candle to him except Dougie Hamilton. And that's saying a lot because
Carlson could do it too. Carlson's got that.
I think Carlson's at the end of it. I think that Carlson has seen his prime come and go because he doesn't have a good pairing now.
I mean, that might be true with Washington. I don't know who he's going to be paired with this year, but
I think it's going to be Chara. I think it's going to be big and slow and fast and
for him, I hope
big.
not. Yeah, I hope not. But I think he's going to be like he's going to be like Joe Thornton. He's going to be playing every other game. He's not
right.
Yeah,
it's the Bobby Orr retirement contract.
Yeah,
whenever he went to Chicago for 2 years to say that he played somewhere else.
Yeah.
What do you got for Anaheim?
Anaheim is just. I mean, they're going to have. I mean, I really just don't know enough about it. I mean, it's like they're so under the radar as far as their team. I mean, they've still got the old veterans, but who are these new guys that are going to come behind them to help out the cause?
I think the most interesting thing we're going to see out of Anaheim this year is John Gibson set a new record for himself. I think this is Gibson's absolute prime year. I don't think you're going to see him get any better than this. Even last year, he looked really solid. He's not by any means a top 3 goalie yet. I think that he really could surprise some guys this year, though. Their forwards are lackluster at best.
Yeah.
The best of which be Cam Fowler, in personal opinion. And you've still got Kevin Steele over there, and he's present. But I don't see scoring out of Anaheim, but I do see a lot of really good-looking defense.
Yeah, and the problem for me, I mean, I watch Anaheim every once in a while. Usually when they they're playing LA or somebody like that to good rivalry game. I just don't see enough of them to and there's not really any buzz around them to who's going to be that top player for them.
Yeah, and on from Anaheim to the good old middle of the road, the absolute worst, best, perfect median of the NHL, the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah.
What do you say? I don't really know what you could even comment on. It's they're there. They exist. They're not good. They're not bad. They just show up sometimes. It's
yeah.
Dubnik's still great. I think the worst decision they've made in the past 5 years is let Darcy Kemper go. I think the Kemper would have been the real potential to keep it. And, whenever they dropped him off to Arizona, which we're very thankful for, that set them so far back. They just don't have a defense. I mean, they're a legacy team. They signed way too many long contracts way too early on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Anaheim Ducks roster. I mean, there's some decent players on there. I mean, there's, uh, Ricard Raquel. I like him. Hampus Lindholm, semi decent defense. Adam Henrique. It's just, I guess the best thing I could say is this team really just doesn't have an identity.
Yeah, and they don't have any standouts.
Yeah.
There's no standout. I mean, every other team in the league has got at least one guy that you can look at and go, okay. Anaheim just isn't. They just don't have it.
Let me see if they got anything in the prospect pipeline here.
Yeah, they've got a forward from Finland that has a lot of potential, really fast, small guy.
Oh, they got Trevor Zegras, so I mean that's something to build off of, I guess.
Yeah, but is it going to end up being a McDavid situation?
Yeah, I mean, if there's nothing else to build around, that could be. Yeah, there are other guys I just don't. Oh, they got Max Comtois. He's decent. Oh, that's right. They drafted Jamie Drysdale on the defense. That's I think he did really well in the World Juniors. I think he's going to be a stud on the back end for him.
It's just three guys to build a team. That's how you get to where Edmonton's at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they actually, if they are focused and they put the right players in the right places instead of just continuously drafting the top forward every year, I think perhaps they can build better. There's stuff there. It's just again they're going to have to develop an identity. They've got it'll take a couple of years for them to kind of reemerge in the whatever division we come out with after the strike shortens, or this not strike shortened, but the COVID shortened season. So who do you have as the top goaltender in the or top goal scorer in the division?
McKinnon.
Yeah, that's who
and even if you ask me a team, I would still say McKinnon. That's how confident I am with him.
Well, it's either McKinnon or whoever's on McKinnon's line. So it could be somebody like Burakovsky or Rantanen. Whoever he's feeding the puck could be the top goal scorer in that team, but it's going to be McKinnon related.
Right, and it's just I think that his points total are going to outweigh the points of at least one team in that division.
Yeah,
I can see McKinnon scoring more goals than San Jose.
Yeah, I have no. Well, I mean, I've got enough confidence to put San Jose in that. That's because they've got remnants in that team that was semi decent, got to a Stanley Cup Finals, and there's just not enough rest in the rest of the division that I feel confident enough in.
I don't hate San Jose. I don't think that Martin Jones is anybody.
Yeah, and Aaron Dell's not.
He has potential. He's going to get there. It's just there's not a defense in front of him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got Erik Karlsson, although Karlsson's really fallen off the map.
And it's one man. You've got one guy to is he going to play 30 minutes a game?
He could.
He has. It's still so much work. And whenever he's playing 30 minutes a game, he actually was on who was he with? He was with whenever he was in Ottawa, he was putting up a lot of minutes, but he was with a pairing that was actually, somebody that could carry their own.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly who that was, but yeah, you're right. But in a 56 game season, this compact, you're not going to see players for very long be able to hold on to a 30-minute or even 25-minute a night workload. You're going to have to start trusting all the players in your team, because if not, then you're in trouble. You may be able to do that for 2 weeks, but then you're screwing your team for the rest of the season. Let's see, best goaltender in the division.
Man, I don't like anybody. I it's I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say Bennington, but I don't think that we're going to see it in numbers. I think that we're going to see it in raw performance.
Yeah,
I don't think that St. Louis has got enough backing him up to really cover Bennington like he deserves to be. You know, you're going to see a lot of really jaw dropping saves from him,
yeah,
but I don't see him keeping good numbers just because he's going to be working so hard.
yeah. I don't know. See, he had such a bad playoff run. And, whenever I see a goalie have like a phenomenal rookie season and then have a bad playoff run, I think of Byron Defoe. And, how he, won a Vezina and then just fell off the face of the earth.
Right.
Um, I would say in this division, I'm going to go out on a limb for this one because it could go really good or it could go really, really bad. And that is Robin Leonard in Vegas.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, between him and Fleury, I think Fleury has kind of accepted the backup role, but I think teams throughout the season will be inquiring with Vegas to see about Fleury's availability or maybe he does get frustrated, wants to move on to a contender, another team where he can be the leader and make them a contender. So
Pull Patrick Wall on him.
yeah, that could happen. Let's see. So top goaltender. All right, so let's move on to the Central Division. This is another division that's harder because there really isn't just a clear cut number one for me in this division. In this division, we've got Carolina, Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Nashville, and Tampa. And I think it's because you've got two teams that are going to be really off in this division.
It's a division of volatile unpredictability.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things you're going to have to watch it for a week or two, and it's going to be weekly with a lot of these. I mean, you've got so many super valid factors within each team. Chicago looks dramatically different today than they did yesterday. Corey Crawford retired today. He announced
Corey's on the Devils.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't go over, or he didn't make it yet. Chicago's net. I don't actually know who the goaltender is for Chicago.
I don't think they know who the goaltender is in Chicago.
That's part of my concern for them. I mean, and hey, they might pull a St. Louis from St. Louis's Cup run. They might find some kid off the street and say, "Hey, step up," and then Bennington.
AHL.
But
it could happen. I think out of this division for me, one team really stands out. I mean, you've got Tampa who won the title.
And then lost Kucherov. That's going to be a big hit.
They lost Kucherov, but they may gain Stamkos back. So, how does that balance out? I think there's still enough left of that team that's very solid that will carry them through the regular season. I think they're going to finish 1 or 2 in that division. The team that I think is going to be the top team in that division is going to be Carolina. I think Rob Brindamore has built a very solid team there, and they have fun. They know how to score. They've got decent goaltending. I think it's enough to feast on teams like Detroit and Chicago. Even Dallas. Dallas is going to have issues with injuries coming out of their cup run. A lot of guys are not going to be there to start the season. We talked about their COVID issues. So Dallas might, I'm not very confident in Dallas returning to even the playoffs out of this one. In fact, in this division, I've got Carolina, Tampa, Columbus, and Nashville coming out. But those other teams, I just don't see enough out of them to make a playoff push. Florida is always that. They've got a great. In fact, my top goal scorer in that division is going to be Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah, he's going to be the only one on the team.
Yeah, he is a stud. He is an amazing talent.
Completely wasted.
Completely wasted. Ekblad there too. I mean, these are two phenomenal talents, but that's all they've got.
Yeah.
They got Spencer Knighton coming. They've got $10 million a season wrapped up in Bobrovsky, but
wow, that was a raw deal.
Columbus dodged a bullet on that one.
Columbus made out like a bandit. The only thing that I can say that I feel bad about Columbus for is not keeping Panarin.
Yeah, but that was never going to happen. He wanted to be in a big city. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Columbus, that I think is going to be the most unpredictable team that we've got here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing right now with Columbus is Pierre-Luc Dubois has requested a trade. That they just re-signed him. He just got that fresh contract. First comment that we got publicly out of him after being re-signed was, "I don't want to be here."
That is so strange. Like, why did you sign the deal? But I guess he put pen to paper so that they're required. He knows what he's going to make. He knows what he's going to make. So when he gets dealt, but
now he has the upper hand because it is 100% his decision how he performs, and he's getting paid regardless.
Exactly.
I mean, and everybody knows it. But if you watch, and that's one of the reasons I think that Columbus is such a volatile team. If you watch the way that Tortorella talks to the kid on the bench,
oh yeah,
it's horrendous. The dude doesn't get out of his face. There's video after video of Tortorella lighting up Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I feel terrible for him. And I think that it's week to week. Do I like the coach this week?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there have been issues with Dubois kind of floating, and that's the one dude that's not going to allow someone to float on his team is John Tortorella. I mean,
seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the same guy that 3 years ago was running down the hallway to the dressing room in Calgary trying to get all this fight.
Yeah. I mean, Torts is the one true character. I mean, he's of the coaches. I mean, it used to be like Mike Keenan, but ripping off a C during the game.
Yeah, no, he's a personality, and I've seen him live, and there's so much that you don't catch on camera with that guy. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
He keeps a little. Either that or he's hitting the bench, but he's got something that he can hit whenever he gets mad.
I love Torres. I mean,
he's a true personality.
I wouldn't want to play for him, but no. I love watching him on the bench. Speaking of Torts and Columbus, I have Merzlikins as the top goalie in the division.
By a long shot. Merzlikins is going to come out as such a phenomenal goaltender. The performance we saw from him last year, the kid's going to be untouchable.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to be the next Carey Price, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And another giant acquisition for Columbus is going to be Max Domi. If
kind of in that same vein as Kadri, can he keep his head?
Does he need to? I think that's part of what you get with Domi. I think they knew what they were getting into. He spends half his time acting like his dad and half his time acting like an elite goal scorer.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting mix for him. It's not something that I'm used to seeing with guys in the league now. He's part Ryan Reeves and part Artemi Panarin. You just don't know which one you're going to get this shift.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue and why he's kind of been held back is that his coach doesn't know what he's going to get when he throws him up the board. So he may need a scoring shift, and he gets, Popeye the Sailor Man rolling around the ice. I mean that to me is why he has those issues with his coaches and why he's been on 3 teams in the last 3 years.
Yeah, we got rid of him as soon as we got him.
Yeah,
because he was an Arizona draft. I don't know what his issue was in Montreal. I feel like Montreal would have been a perfect fit for him. Honestly, out of all the teams, if I'd have had to pick one that Domi could go to that I think that he would have done well in, Montreal would have been one of them. And it may just be an attitude.
I wouldn't mind having him at Buffalo just because I think that that's kind of one of those ingredients that the Sabres really need is somebody that does have that sandpaper but scoring touch.
Yeah, he's pure grit, man. He's Probert.
Yeah.
In so few words, where the league won't let him fight as much. It's what Probert would have been if he could have scored a little more. It's insane to watch him play,
Yeah.
and he's such a sniper. I mean, he hits a slot, and it's very OV-esque. His the slap shots from him from all the way down at the blue line are insane. Some of his goals have been
Yeah.
where's the puck and why's the light on?
So, who did you have leading the division in scoring?
Taking a long shot here. I really think that this year, and this is my outstanding, over the top, what's wrong with me pick of the year. I think that Nashville's coming out, and I think they're coming out strong. I think that they finally got it together. There's so many names that you haven't heard of on Nashville that you look them up, and they're high scoring guys. They're 25, 30 goal a game guys, and it's insane that we don't know more about them. Nashville to me is going to be a real come up, if not this year, next year. They just picked up my favorite young guy from Team Canada, which is Philip Tomasino.
Yeah.
They've got so much potential coming up in Nashville. Pekka is not doing too good, but they've got Saros, and I think that's.
I think this is the year that Saros really just takes over goalie one on the team. I think
I don't know if we're going to see a goalie one this year. I'm trying to look more in depth at the goalies because I just don't think that you're going to see a guy come out and play every night.
Well, not every night. No, you're not. But you're going to see. He's going to take the. It's going to be like a probably a 35 game start for top goalie, and the backup take the about 20 games or so. But I just don't. I think Rene has kind of let Saros pass him by, and I think Saros is, he's a good goaltender. I think he will keep them in games. They still have phenomenal defense there, and they are getting some decent scoring. Yeah, I agree. Tomasino is going to be a stud, but I do have them in the playoffs in my division. But I have them as a 4th seed.
They're a real wild card for what they're going to do.
The whole division really is a wild card. I mean, you could put any of these teams in the playoffs, except for Detroit and Chicago for me.
Well, even with Chicago, we haven't touched on Chicago. I mean,
yeah, but they lost Kirby Doc. I mean, that was a tough one for them.
They lost Kirby for at least 6 weeks. Yeah. And they may have lost Jonathan Taves. We don't know.
Yeah.
Taves is having the health issues, and it's speculated that it's something physical. It's speculated it's something mental. We have no clue what's going on with Taves, last I read. But they've still got Patrick Kane. I still like Patrick Kane. He's still going to be consistent. I think that he's going to, net at least 30 this year. And guys like him, you still have a little bit of grit in the back. They're definitely not a young team. You've got guys like Seabrook and DeBrincat that still perform to par, and I think that they'll continue to. They're not a threat to anybody. They might hold you off for a little bit, but I still like Chicago to some degree. I feel like they could show back up at some point.
Honestly, if let's say Taves says that he's done, he's going to retire, just like Crawford. Whatever he's dealing with is just too much. I would not be surprised if Chicago asked Kane for a 10-team list.
Yeah,
to get traded to. I think Chicago will understand that they're going to lose Taves and not getting a return for him. They're going to have to get some kind of return.
Right.
And they've got some good young pieces on that team, and they draft well. They draft really well. It's just
we trade with them all the time. We go Arizona and Chicago are like best, man. It's crazy if you look at the rosters. You could almost flip them half the time, and it's the same guys.
Yeah. I think that Chicago will at some point realize that they've got to do the thing. They've got to rebuild. That the 3 Stanley Cup championships were fantastic, but let's rebuild so we don't spend another 55 years waiting for a Stanley Cup championship.
But yeah, they were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
But nothing will make them stretch into another 10, 15 years, like, trying to hold on to that past glory.
right.
You got to know when to cut bait on that one.
And I tell you who I think would be a perfect pick for Kane. I would love to see Patrick Kane on Carolina.
Yeah,
I think that Patrick Kane with Sebastian Aho would.
The only thing with Kane that's going to be hard to trade him is that his contract still has a couple more years and it's still north of 10.
Right. Well, and Carolina cuts it pretty close to the cap every year.
Yeah, so they'd have to move salary back.
I'm wondering too with Carolina. I think that this could be the year that we see 3, because you've got so many games that are so tight, so close.
Yeah,
you're going to see really high performance from a few guys that are okay to work under the pressure. I think you're going to see a lot of guys fall off because they can't handle it.
Yeah.
Svechnikov, I think, is one of those guys that can absolutely handle it. He's going to show up. He's going to play every game, and he's going to be a threat.
Yeah.
He's a machine.
Yeah.
It's the hit machine.
All right. Let's hit the group of death. Eastern Division.
The fun ones.
Grupo de Morte. Yeah, this one is a tough division. These teams are going to beat the hell out of each other for 56 games. It's going to feel like 82 games when they're done with this division. Boston, Buffalo, the Islanders, Rangers, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Washington. With the exception of my Buffalo Sabres, all of these teams have been playoff teams. I think all of these teams were playoff teams. Well, I mean, they made the cut for last year, but the year before, I think they were as well. So this is a very deep division.
There's a lot to unpack here.
You've got some blue bloods. Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington have all been in the playoffs the majority of the last decade. Rangers and Islanders are on the come up.
And Philadelphia.
They're on the come up. Buffalo, I'm sorry, missed a team in here. The Devils. Devils suffered because of the Crawford thing. I think they're going to end up last in the division, even though they got some good offensive talent, Hughes and Nico Hischier. I just don't think it's enough to overcome the not having a good guy now. I mean, this team got lit up by Buffalo last year twice. I mean,
they got lit up by everybody.
Yeah.
They made it by default. They made it by the division they're in. They just kind of did something. Nobody's really sure what. And they've got so many long-term contracts they're stuck in for guys that aren't going to perform. Yeah. You're not going to see anything out of the Devils for a while. They made that big playoff push last year before?
Year before when they had Taylor Hall.
Year before when they had
2 years. 2 years before they had Taylor Hall, then they traded. Hall got traded. What did he get traded last year?
Well, we bought him. Arizona bought him last year. Yeah. And honestly, man, before the season last year, Dallas was my absolute pick to make the cup run. I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
But whenever New Jersey was making all these acquisitions, Wayne Simmons and Taylor Hall, and whenever they were pulling all these big names in, I really loved that team. I thought that team was 100% going to be a playoff contention team, and they just wet the bed.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah, it was not a good year for but they did turn it around once they fired the coach. After the second loss to Buffalo, by the way, the second loss to Buffalo when they got lit up like 8 or 9-1 or something like that, they sent the goaltender to the minors and yeah, it was a bad night. Former Coyote Louis Domingue was sent to the minors off of that loss, and then they fired the coach. when they brought the new coach in, he did well for the rest of the season, but now they decided not to go with him, uh,
Right.
and brought in
Which
Lindy
was a
Ruff.
mistake, I think, on their behalf. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lindy Ruff. Sabres fan. I have a love hate relationship with Lindy Ruff. I mean, he was our coach forever, and coached us to some very good times. The '06 Cup run, '05 and '06 Cup runs, the finals appearance in '99. But then he also coached us into some very dark periods when we were didn't have an owner, and we didn't make the playoffs for 3 straight years, which looking back on that, 3 straight years is not so bad when it's up to 9 for us. So
Yeah.
but it was rough, right after going into the playoffs and having long cup runs, then going without playoffs for 3 years was brutal. And then when you had the lockout, and when we came out of the lockout, nobody knew what was going to happen, and he actually built that team to match the new NHL, and he was adaptable when it came to that. He was able to innovate and adapt to the times, and built a team that was able to compete in that new NHL with eliminating the hooking and the holding and the grabbing and all that stuff. Um, but it didn't end well, and he's gone around, and he had a stint in Dallas, and he's had some associate coaching duties in a couple places. But I'm glad to see him behind the bench. I just don't know that New Jersey's the right fit for him.
I don't think right now. I think that going to New Jersey as a coach is going to be a death sentence anyway, because
Yeah,
there's nothing that you can do there. You can waste time, you can make a few bucks, and you can leave. It's
yeah,
just there's not a team to coach.
yeah, yeah. I don't disagree. I do have the Devils in the bottom of the division. Um, my four teams making the playoffs out of there: the Islanders, Philly, Rangers, and Capitals. Um,
Wow, that's pretty rough. You just sleeping completely on Boston.
I am. I
Wow.
Boston has lost too much in this offseason, did not replace it. Pasternak being out of the lineup the first couple weeks. You can't have long-term injuries when you've lost a lot of your defensive depth. You're out when you don't have Krug, you don't have Chara, and you don't have Pasta. It's not a good combination for Boston. Uh, Rask came back. I'm eager to see how he plays. I know he had the issue with his daughter, which answers a lot of questions that fans had with him leaving the bubble.
Oh yeah,
Makes
that
it
was
makes it a lot
huge.
more reasonable. You're like, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, cool. And I will say that he shouldn't have had to explain it that way, but it does give people an understanding of why he left the bubble. Um, you know,
The
I don't think that there's enough in Boston right now that will compete in this. This division is going to beat the hell out of you. Beat the hell out of you.
right. I mean, I see some younger guys stepping up though. Charlie McAvoy can go either way. Charlie McAvoy's either going to be phenomenal or
I think he's going to be really good, but I
he
just
can't carry a team.
I don't think he's number one defense material right now.
I think that the one thing that they've got going for them in this division, the one thing that I can honestly say for Boston is they've got the strongest goaltending by appearance. I like a few of the other guys. I mean, I like Georgiev quite a bit.
Yeah,
I definitely don't see any issue with him. Carter Hart, what's going to
Carter Hart.
happen?
Carter Hart's great. He doesn't have a good backup though. I
And,
don't
and
trust.
honestly, as far as goalie goes, I think that Tristan Yari is one of the best goalies in the league. I just don't see Pittsburgh performing to any standard that it's going to matter.
And that's why I don't have Pittsburgh going, because one, they have frequent injury issues to their top players. So Crosby usually goes down once a year. Malkin usually goes down once a year, and they don't have that depth that they've had in the past, where another player could step up. or Sydney could carry the team while Evgeny's out, and Evgeny would carry the team while Sydney's out. In a 56 game season, the way it's constructed, any loss of those two guys is going to be detrimental because you can't carry a team when you're playing back to back, day off, back to back. That's just going to wear on a player, and you're going to see both of them break down if that happens to any extent early in the season. And that's why I don't have Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Pittsburgh's going to have to own up to it, and finally, they're just like Chicago. They're going to have to realize, yes, they do have old talent, and it still applies. But the problem with Pittsburgh is they're going to have to rebuild. They don't have an option here.
And my big prediction this year is that at some point, Pittsburgh will approach Evgeny Malkin for a list of teams to be traded to.
It would be better now than later.
Yeah, and he's going to be very sexy. He's going to help. The thing with the Penguins, they've been really good about pulling college free agents.
Yeah,
but they really just don't have a whole lot of draft pick depth. And they've been one of those teams that have traded first round draft picks for players at the deadline to make that playoff push, and they just don't have a whole lot in the cupboard. They've been bailed out by making some really savvy picks on those college forwards that didn't get drafted, that blossom late, like your Gensels, like your Rusts. Those guys have really panned out, but you can only do that so long. You're going to need your draft picks to start hitting, and if you don't have them, then you're living on borrowed time, and I think the time is running out for Pittsburgh.
Well, and I love Jay Gensel. I love Teddy Bluger.
Yeah.
Are they first or second line? No.
I mean, if Sidney Crosby is on your first line, anybody can be a first line. I could be a first liner on Sidney Crosby.
But I mean, dream pick position for those guys. They're depth guys. Yeah. That's where they really show up. They don't need depth guys whenever they don't have a first or second line because everybody on the team just got the crap beat out of them.
Yeah.
It's and you have to remember, I mean, these injury prone guys are going up against Washington. Washington, my God, what a team of bodies. Mm-hmm. These guys will absolutely kill you. And they look like the Broad Street Boys under a different name now. You've got Chara, you've got Carlson, you've got Ovechkin, you've got Tom Wilson.
Yeah, these guys all lay the body.
If anybody in this division is going to be a threat to players that are injury prone, it's Washington all day. Washington's going to be the most dangerous team on the ice right now.
The question with Washington is goaltending because they put all their eggs in that Henrik Lundqvist basket. To have him be that 1A guy for 1 year while it's just Samsonov really, gets into that North American game. And now it's going to be Samsonov as the 1A goaltender. And is he going to be enough to, allow Washington to move forward? They're still going to score with anybody. It's, they had defensive lapses towards the end of last year. And while they do have those big bodies, they're also a little bit slower now. And, you saw teams like Carolina, you saw teams, the Islanders that are faster, that are escaping those checks, and they're able to, play their game better than Washington right now.
I think it's going to be a good mix. I think that you've got guys like, Backstrom is still very relevant.
Yeah.
Of course, you've got Ovechkin, and he's always a high level threat.
Oh no, Ovechkin will fall out of bed and still score.
Well, and
he'll get close to 40 goals this year. Even 56 games doesn't give you a whole lot of leeway. He'll get close to 40.
I think this is going to be the year that we see Ovechkin get injured. It's going to start to be the slide downhill. I think.
I really do hope he makes a challenge at Gretzky's record.
I don't know. I don't want the Russians to win.
It's another, of all the Russians in this world, I have great love for Alexander Ovechkin. I think he's been nothing but good for this sport of hockey.
That's true. And if I love anything about Obi, it's the personality that he brings to
Yeah.
it. The guy's a blast. You look at whenever he had
When he
to
won
come
the cup, oh my god,
whenever, in bed with his wife, and what was it full of? Hot dogs or something?
something,
It
yeah.
was full of some kind of weird food. It was the weirdest Playboy photo shoot I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think the Washington Kuznetsov still very relevant in this league.
Didn't he get traded?
If he did, I'm completely unaware.
Let me make sure.
I think I actually drafted him in our fantasy league. If the Eagles going somewhere else, that may completely change my outlook on the divisions this year.
Oh no, he's still in Washington.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking because he's.
I was thinking.
I mean, he's a big threat. The Kuzi Bird will always be, as long as he's playing, man. He's going to be a monster.
Yeah, I mean he's great. But again, watching them in the playoffs last year, watching them in the playoffs the year before, they went against two teams. Yeah, I mean he's great. What am I doing? But again, watching them in the playoffs last year, watching them in the playoffs the year before, they went against two teams.
What did I do?
I mean he's great. What am I doing? But again,
we got some kind of playback thing going on
here. Watching them in the playoffs the year before. They went against two teams.
What did I do?
I mean, he's great. What am I doing? But again,
we're experiencing technical difficulties.
There we go.
Yeah, all right.
He'll be right back.
Commercial break
on YouTube, I think. I guess I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, but they face two teams that are faster, and I think that's the way the league is trending right now. Young, fast, and
I mean, but that's the way the league was trending in the 90s. And then you had a guy like Scott Stevens take down two of the fastest guys on the ice.
Yeah, but now you can't hit like Scott Stevens used to.
I don't know, man.
I still see suspension.
Yeah, I still see a lot of potential out of Washington, even with those big, slow guys.
Well, I mean, I got them in the playoffs. I just don't have them busting out and being the Eastern Division winner.
I think that it's a pretty hot pick for me. Who's going to take it? I think we're going to see Philadelphia make a serious run here.
I mean, I like Carter Hart. Again, if there's an injury in goal, I don't trust. I don't trust the backup, and I don't. There's good scoring there, and it's just not enough for me to really put them in that elite level yet. But they're coming. They are coming.
See, for me, it's you've got guys like Provorov and Gottspear that are starting to come into their own.
Yep.
And they're looking fantastic, and they're going to need good defense like those guys.
Yeah.
That's going to be the story of this division. It's going to be, from here to the hash marks, can you shut them down? Because it is a division of goal scorers. That's all this division is. So I think that your skating defensemen are going to matter so much more here than anywhere else in the league. But you've got Morgan Frost coming up.
But like this whole division could be totally turned on its head. I mean, you could see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Boston in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if you even see Buffalo in the playoffs. There are things that would have to happen for Buffalo to make the playoffs, but I don't. But there are questions there. Like for Buffalo, you would have to have that secondary scoring.
Right.
We got Stahl. Does that second line provide that depth scoring that they've missed the last few years? And in goal, does either Olmark or Hutton, does Hutton have a better year because he fixed his eyes in the offseason? Does Olmark actually, make that step to be the number one?
I love Olmark. I really think that Olmark's going to show up, and I think that he's going to put forward his best foot and surprise everybody.
I sure hope so.
And Well, it's scoring for Buffalo, man. You've got the new Yager. Um, I think that you're going to see Taylor Hall try to collect every NHL team. You
Yeah.
know, let's make a Yager-esque run and see how many different places he can play.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see, I would hope to see that, he has a phenomenal year and then he just says, you know what, I do make a long-term commitment here. The only thing is I just don't know how they do that with, them having to pay Darlene next year.
I
And then
can't see
having
Taylor
to,
Hall staying with the team for longer than 3 years.
yeah, that could,
He's not one of those guys.
yeah, it could be. I mean, he's what, Edmonton, New Jersey, Arizona, now Buffalo. Yeah. I mean,
All over just very few years,
yeah,
because Edmonton had him on that entry level, and I don't. You can only count that for a small percentage because I mean, no guy's going to come in and immediately start
yeah,
flopping around. Now he's starting to get his wheels spinning. I don't think they're going to stop.
yeah, exactly. So top goal scorer in this division. You say it's a division of goal scorers. Who do you have?
Panarin all day. Love the Rangers. Love to see it. You got Panarin absolutely going to show up. You've got Zibanejad.
Yeah, that's a tough team, man. Especially you got Lafreniere coming. You've got Capo Caco. I mean, how do these guys? How does Caco develop over that first year? Where does Lafreniere fit into the mix?
I don't think Lafreniere is going to fit into the league.
Really, you think that he's gonna?
I think that Lafreniere is going to be a flop.
Really?
I really do. I've watched him play. I've done as much research on him as I can, and I just don't like him. There's
Wow.
nothing been able to convince me that. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been a first overall. I'm saying for the potential that's out there right now, that was out there this year, I think that he's worth the gamble for most teams. But if it was my call, I probably wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, I mean, the wild card is the fact is how will a player adjust to playing in New York City? Because some players can handle it. Panarin is one of those guys who can handle playing in New York City. But there are players that will grip their stick too tight and they'll melt under the pressure of playing in New York City. It's the same with all the other sports. So, the Yankees, can someone play with the Yankees? Because there are plenty of players that have come to the Yankees that just couldn't hack it because they couldn't hack the pressure of the media, the fans, all of that. So
Panarin is absolutely living his best life in New
oh
York.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you see the pictures of this kid. Everything looks like a spa advertisement. There's always like 20 or 30 absolute rockets standing around him.
yeah,
The guy walks out of his front door. There's women lined up outside.
yeah.
He just got sponsored by some kind of vodka company or something.
Oh geez.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's something to be said for the Russian talent in the league because
Yeah.
Panarin's starting to shape up a lot like Obi.
Yeah, Panarin's a stud, and I don't disagree. For me, it's to be the king, I got to beat the king, and I still think Ovechkin's the king. And I know you said you think this is the year he gets injured and falls off. I, the dude's a mule, and I think he's gonna keep on keeping on.
And I would say that he has to break down at some point, but again, back to Yager. You look at some of these guys, especially these European guys, they decide they're going to play for the rest of their life, and they will die
Yeah.
with a stick in their hands. Even if they do get injured, they're going to play through it, and they're still going to perform to standard. So, Ovi could surprise me. I just feel like it's all too good to be true for him. It's going too well, and I just don't think that he's going to keep pulling it.
All right. Top goalie in the division.
Oof. I want to say the obvious answer. I think that it's going to come out of Boston. I mean, I really, really like Rask. I think that if it's not him, it's going to be Olmark. I'm
Wow.
that confident. Yeah. Which,
Right.
Blackwood actually, as far as performance goes, he's coming into his own pretty good.
Yeah, I just don't buy him as a number one. I don't I've never really bought him as a number one goaltender. Um, and I don't know that the Devils really have all that much confidence in him as a goaltender because he keep bringing in other goaltenders to
Right.
for him to serve under.
But now we've got new coaching staff
Yeah,
in New Jersey, and it's going to be interesting to see how they try to salvage this.
yeah, and so for me, the top goalie in the division is going to be Ilya Sorokin with the Islanders. I
Yeah, I
think
know you're a big fan of his.
because he's playing for Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz plays a massively defensive oriented game. I think he's going to make that kid look good. He is a competent goaltender, and I think the sky's the limit for the kid with a very good team. It's a very good mix of a team there on the island, and that's why I've got them number one coming out of that division. So, all right, so let's go to our. Who do you have coming out of each of the division for the semifinals in the playoffs?
I mean, my top two out of the North, it's of course Toronto's my number one,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much division between Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Montreal. I don't know what you can actually pick up for the just initial. You know,
Yeah,
it's going to depend on who's showing up. Where is Carey Price going to actually play for Montreal? Is that going to be a thing?
yeah,
Montreal's put a lot of bodies together. Montreal just picked up Corey Perry.
yep,
You know, so they're trying to change their game up. I don't think that Calgary and Edmonton are going to quit fighting long enough to actually score anything. You know, we get 9 battles of Alberta this year. That's
that's gonna be fun.
spectacle every time. You know, it. I mean, Zach Cassian is going to come out of this looking like Rocky in the third round against a Russian.
Yeah,
But I think it's going to really just be a toss up between those three. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Montreal,
so
uh,
Montreal out of the North.
Toronto, and Montreal.
What about Central? Who you got coming out of there?
Central for me all day is going to be Nashville and Carolina in that order.
Oh,
And
okay.
then West, Colorado, Vegas. I don't know. I don't think there's anything else to be said there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cut and dry. And then East, Rags, and Philly.
Okay. But
Right.
so who do you have in the semis though? So who are your division winners in the playoffs?
Oh, I think that we're going to see Toronto, Colorado, and Nashville and the Rangers.
Okay. And for the semis for me, I've got Colorado, the Islanders, Toronto, and Carolina.
It's
And
going to be interesting for sure.
I've got it shaking out as far as the way that they're going to finish. I think um, Carolina's going to probably Carolina or Colorado will be the President's Trophy winners. Um, they'll play the fourth team, and I think that's going to be the East champion. Um, I think that they're going to be the division winner with the fewest points. That's going to be the Islanders. That'll be a good intro series. I've got Carolina playing the Islanders. Carolina being the President's Trophy winners. That means Colorado plays Toronto. I don't think Toronto has any. They've got a great team, but they are going to be hard pressed to compete with Colorado.
It's not the same league.
Yeah, and I think what they're going to see is that the fact that they were in the North Division and they didn't face that super elite level competition in that North Division is going to hurt them when it comes to playing Colorado, and they're going to get blown out. And I see the Islanders beating Carolina. Um, I think Trotz will manage to keep um, the high scoring Carolina Hurricanes down, and I've got a Islanders versus Colorado Stanley Cup final. and I think the Avalanche take it in probably 6.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be such an interesting year for injuries. You're going to see so many more. You're going to have so many guys worn out.
Yeah,
The biggest thing for Carolina that in your universe would put them down is they've got so many offensive defensemen that are they're kind of loose players. They're a little bit more risk taker esque. I mean, if you see guys like Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin getting hurt, it's going to be hard pressed to actually replace them.
yeah. Well, and that was, that see the thing with Carolina is when they come up with against a defensively structured team, they have problems. They had problems against Boston. They have problems. They beat the Capitals. The Capitals, again, they're kind of a loose defensive structure team.
Yeah.
Especially after Trotz left. That first year after Trotz left, and you have Chad Reardon as the coach. Carolina beat the Caps because they were not defensively structured. They lost to Boston because they're defensively structured. And the Islanders are phenomenal in defense. So that's why I've got the Islanders in the finals. I just don't think that I don't think anybody can match the firepower of Colorado. Colorado's only downfall we've talked about is goaltending.
Well, yeah, and even then, it doesn't matter if you win by 1. I can see Colorado putting 10 in against anybody before they can put 9 in.
Yeah.
So it's that high octane first and second line defense. They're not lacking anywhere. They can rotate.
Yeah,
I mean, most of their AHL defensemen are going to look better this year than most of the NHL's defensemen.
Yeah,
Carolina has put together such a quick, tough team. Or I'm sorry, Colorado. It's going to be so hard to
and they have such a embarrassment of riches even in their prospect depth that goaltending issue will probably get addressed by moving some of those assets out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't. When it comes to the trade deadline this year, I think Colorado gets the goaltender. I think you'll see maybe Kane or Malkin moved, if not at the deadline after the season. But yeah, there will be. They'll get that addressed because you can't have a Stanley Cup caliber team and then hope that Philip Grubauer is your guy that's going to keep you through there. And then Grubauer he's had injury issues his 2 years in Colorado. So are you going to rely on Francouz as your goalie taking you into the playoffs? I just think that they're going to pluck something. I don't think they're going to get say Marc-Andre Fleury out of Vegas. Vegas is not going to trade them anything.
I don't think that they would want to.
No, you don't. You don't want to give them the one piece they need.
Well, no, I don't think that Colorado is going to want somebody of his age. I think that Colorado is going to go really, really high number, prospect guy for a really, really highly rated young goalie. I don't think they're going to pick up anybody under, I mean, you got guys like Georgiev that could end up somewhere else. I mean, it's getting close to their contract. It's getting about.
See, Georgiev, I would not be surprised to see him move because you got Shesterkin coming in, and,
right? And I could see him as he's not a quick fix. I mean, Georgiev is a competent, stay around for a while goalie, and somebody like that on Colorado would make them just stupidly frightening.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm assuming you've got Colorado winning the cup as well. Who do you have them in the finals with?
It's going to be Carolina. If it's any, I really like Carolina. I really like New York. I don't know if New York's going to be able to put up the Rangers. I don't know if they can hold it.
Yeah, but they're coming. They're coming. They're not this year. Next year they're going to be a solid contender.
It's just a year of so many variables.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard this year because you can't really tell who's going to be in the like past years. You could make an much more educated guess about who's going to be in the semifinals and the finals, conference finals, because you knew which teams were going to face off in the conference finals. Since they're reseeding after that the division semifinals and finals are done, you know, any four of those teams could play each other.
Right.
You know, so it's just kind of a luck of the draw, and depending on how points shake out. But yeah, Colorado is just head and shoulders right now.
No, Colorado's the '84 Dolphins of hockey.
Yeah. How do you who do you got going for scoring title?
It's up in the air, man. It's just, again, there's so many variables. I don't know who to put a pick on.
I've got McKinnon. I think McKinnon is,
I
you
think
know,
McKinnon
all the players on his line are competent,
right,
and can get him the puck, and he can get them the puck, and they snipe with the best of them. And I think it's just going to be they're going to feed on the weak sisters of the division.
yeah, and that's what'll do it for him, if anything.
Yeah.
Which you could see somebody like McDavid come back up in a league, or Austin Matthews, where they're in a division with no goaltending.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, man. I gamble quite a bit on hockey, and as soon as the divisions got realigned, the odds on Colorado to win the cup went from 800 to 300.
Oh yeah.
Because as soon as they were out of the Central, it was just game on. Everybody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. And I have the same thing for goals. I think McKinnon, again, like I said with the West preview, is that it's either McKinnon or somebody on McKinnon's line is going to lead lead the league in goals. Of course, I don't think for me, Ovechkin's probably not going to be very far behind.
I just worry about Ovechkin being in the division with the strongest goaltending.
Because it is, but you know what, man, he's made even the most elite look foolish at times. So
yeah, but he only does it once a game.
All you need to do is once a game, man. That's 56 goals right there.
What I mean, though, whenever he's playing,
I get you.
He's playing these elite teams, and whenever he does, or he'll do it every few games on one of these like really good guys. You see the big breaks in Ovi.
Yeah.
And it's always against Boston. It's always against.
Well, it's more that Ovi always gets that chance on the power play, sitting off on the dot and just ripping it. Just rip. They feed him and they rip it, and
guy just stands on the hash mark and waits.
Yeah, that's all you got to do for him. Who do you think wins Vezina? Elvis. That's a good pick. I mean, I think he's going to be very good.
I think he's in a good division to win it.
I think Leonard's going to be in a good position to win it.
I don't have confidence in him. I'm not. He's definitely not going to be the bottom of the class, but I don't see Leonard as staying all the way up all the time. And he's another one that's in a good division for it.
Yeah, I mean he's got a good backup. But I think the competition with his backup is what's going to keep his game at a higher level. If he had a scrub as a backup, then I think you would see him he mentally wanders off. But I think having that top end backup behind him is going to keep a fire under his buttocks.
Now, where did Malcolm Subban end up? Is he Jersey?
No, Chicago, I believe.
Okay, well that answers. I've wondered where he was going to go.
Yeah, no, he got flipped for Leonard at the deadline.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. What about the Norris Trophy? What do you think?
Who's your pick?
I got Carlson.
You think he'll do it?
Yeah, I really like his game. I really like, and it's really gone away from being that shutdown guy to being the best offensive defenseman.
Yeah, I mean he led the league for several weeks last season.
Yeah, I mean he was top notch, and I think the shorter season, because he did kind of trail off as the season went on. I think but it being a shorter season, it will be his to take.
I'm going to sound like a Colorado fanboy here. You know who I'm going to say. Love
Taylor
him to
Carr?
death. Absolute elite little dude.
He
Just,
is.
and he's another guy. I could see him. It's hard to get him off the ice. If you ever watch him play,
Yeah.
he doesn't understand what a shift is. He understands what a game is. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to come.
Well, that could work in his detriment this year. I mean, that's his coach is going to have to really rein that in, because if he's stuck out there and it's he's putting in 25 minutes a night, that could once we get to like game 56, he could be breaking down, just because that is a very heavy workload in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and another guy that's a serious contender for it's going to be Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's about that time.
Yeah.
You know,
Doug Hamilton, he does have a little bit of injury history. So, I mean, if he can stay healthy for 56 games, yeah, definitely. I could see that. And
the
final,
thing for Hamilton in his favor is going to be the lackluster um, defenseman of his division. You don't have as many guys. He's going to have a lot more scoring opportunities. Usually, he's like leading for shots from a defenseman.
yeah.
If he starts putting more on net, it's going to get big, and it's going to get big quick.
All right. What about Calder Trophy, Rookie of the Year? What do you got?
You know who it is. You know what I'm thinking. I think he's going to come in. He's going to barnstorm. If he can come straight into the NHL, if they'll let him, as soon as Tomasino hits the ice,
Yeah.
it's on.
That's a good one. I've got it on Sorokin, just because he's a rookie and will be in a really good position to if he gets the Islanders to first in the Eastern Division, he'll win the trophy just because of that. Because it's that division is going to be a brutal division.
Yeah.
Whoever comes out of that is top notch. All right. So we're getting close to the end of the show. Give me one person, or give me one prediction about your team for this season.
Oh, we're gonna be pretty rough. We're cleaning house.
Yeah.
It's obvious. We've lost Dvorak, we've lost Grabner. Arizona is trying to dump everything. We are finally hitting rebuild. We've accepted it. We got lucky. We've got Hayton for several years. We might see him show up this year because
Yeah.
he's coming into it. Keller's do a good one. I think that Keller is going to actually have a few really solid years before he drops off. Hopefully, with us, he doesn't decide that he wants to be traded.
Yeah.
Because we just got him for 9 years. I think you're going to see Darcy Kemper come up in a big way and stay number one goalie in the league for a few weeks.
Okay. Sounds good. For my Sabres, my biggest prediction for the Sabres is that by the end of the season, the Sabres will stay in contention all season. They will fall just short of the playoffs, but you're going to see Dylan Cousins on the first line by the end of the season with Jack Eichel and Taylor Hall. And that is a very scary line. All three of those guys can snipe. All three of those guys can distribute.
And they're quick. It's a quick.
They're quick. And that is going to keep the Sabres in the conversation. And my prayers is that they can squeak in, but it's just such a tough division. Overall, I think there will be a big push from Canadian media to keep the divisions as they are, or at least the North Division as it is. They want an all-Canadian division bad.
I just think you'd have to redistribute the league so much to make it something.
I think the big pushback is going to be on travel. Having division games where you're playing at, if, you're an East Coast team, you're playing at 10 o'clock at night, a division game. That's going to be the hard thing. Conversely, you're a West Coast team and your game is starting at 4 p.m. That's going to be the hard thing. Travel is another thing, but Canadian media will really want that all Canadian division, or at least I think what the compromise is going to end up being is that they're going to redraw divisions. They're going to have all the Canadian teams in two divisions, and those two divisions will be paired with one another. They play each other more often than the other two divisions.
Right. And, we see with Seattle coming in, something that's absolutely going to kill Arizona once we've got them. We are moved to the Central, and we just went from division games being a 2-hour bus ride to a 20-hour bus ride.
Yeah, I mean it's a long trek. I mean and you're across several different time zones. You're going from uh, you're
we're
going
going,
from Minnesota and Winnipeg down to yeah.
and we're playing Vegas, several times a year to Chicago, and that's going to be killer, man. We're just catching the blunt of it every way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we talked about it the other night, talking about the future of Arizona and what happens with them. They've always been kind of that proverbial: are they going to stay? Are they going to go? What happens with them? And I don't know. It does seem like the divisions are kind of realigning to kind of push them either. They're either going to be very good and survive, or they're going to fall off, lose fans, and they're going to get moved somewhere.
Yeah, we don't really have fans. So we have people.
You got one.
We got people that show up to live sporting events.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I know quite a few people in the fan base for Arizona, and they're all diehards.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it's going to be enough to keep us around for much longer. We're on life support, and it's not looking good.
It's hard. I mean, and being a fan of a team that was rumored at one point to be moving, it it toys with your emotions. You're like, well, if they do move, do I follow them, or do I just pick a new team, or how am I going to do with that? I lived in Atlanta when the Thrashers were moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg. That was hard, man. I mean, that was it was great having an NHL team in the city. I went to a ton of games, and Atlanta, for all the people that slag off in Atlanta, they, because of the difference in size of the arenas, Atlanta's averaged about the same amount of fans as Winnipeg gets in their games. It's just that Phillips Arena was an 18,000 seat facility versus a 15,000 seat facility in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that the owners were inept and they couldn't keep him around, and they couldn't force them to sell the franchise. And and the Thrashers were always second fiddle to the Atlanta Hawks, which was the main team that the ownership group wanted. So that franchise foundered, and the first opportunity they had to sell it to a group that would move it out of the city, they did. And Bettman never put up a fight to keep Atlanta in the league.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this too. There's three absolute top picks for me.
Mm-hmm.
For Arizona, if we do have to go, it's easy. It's send us to Houston. You've got a built-in rivalry in a growing city.
Mm-hmm.
Houston-Dallas rivalry is one of the best in America. I'm not talking sports. I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
Two cities that are absolutely against each other. It's Detroit, Chicago. So to add another sports team to that pot, I think would be a really good thing. I think you'd have a lot of guys show up just because they're playing in a league against Dallas.
Yeah.
And of course, Quebec City, everybody said for years they want the Nordiques back. The Nordiques never should have moved. It's not the biggest town. I feel like it would be another Winnipeg decision.
Yeah.
It would be a low pop area. You don't really have a lot of good choices, though. Kansas City is growing exponentially. They had the scouts back in 74, 75. It didn't work out, but the 70s was not a team or not a time for NHL teams.
Yeah.
Everybody's moving everywhere. We were trying to figure out if hockey was going to survive in America at all.
Oh, yeah, they had WHA and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was just it was a wild west of hockey at that point. Yeah.
And of course, my dream would be to go see my belovedly newly named Coyotes skate out to the Brass Bonanza in Hartford. You know, that would be the absolute best case scenario for me. Is Connecticut gets a hockey team back, all
Yeah.
those funny accents quit complaining about it, and we actually end up somewhere that I the legacy of the Whalers. The Whalers are a storybook team. If
Yeah, but I
nothing,
don't know if you'd be able to use that imagery because Carolina owns it.
and that would again, it's all a fantasy for me that they could ever go there.
Yeah.
But man, if
Well,
they
that's the hardest city. I mean, I can see Quebec City. I could see Houston. I can see Kansas City. Uh, basically because all three of those locations actually have facilities now.
right,
Um, Hartford doesn't have that facility, and I don't think you're going to get the government, or do I think you should get the government, but get the government to fund a new facility in Hartford. They tore down the old one, and I just don't see a new one coming there. Plus, you've got, I don't know how keen the Rangers and the Islanders would be on having a team back in Hartford.
well, but we're entering a new era of the NHL here with Seattle. Seattle's
Yeah,
a really good example of corporate ownership of NHL teams. For what it's worth, for what Amazon has done with Seattle, built the arena, done all this stuff, paid for
yeah,
everything, and then basically handed it off to the city of Seattle and said, "Here you go, take a little bit off for taxes and forget about it."
yeah.
Right now, if Elon Musk decides that he wants to put a team in Springfield, Missouri, you're going
Yeah,
to get a team in Springfield, Missouri. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Well, it depends on how he does it. Because remember Jim Balsillie tried to do that with Nashville. He tried to do it with Ottawa. Tried to buy the team and move it to Hamilton.
Yeah,
The old BlackBerry owner, and the way he did it, he pissed off all of the league brass, the owners, and the NHL. Plus, you're dropping it into a market that Buffalo and Toronto both claim, so that that was a that was a deal that was never going to fly.
yeah,
You know, if Jim Boss or if Elon Musk comes to the NHL and says, "Hey, Tesla will become a major corporate sponsor of NHL, the official car of the NHL," uh, then a year later says, "I'd like to buy a team," and they'd be like, "Yes, let's do this." How
yeah.
about, how about the Florida Panthers?
No, I think that I think it would be interesting to see Honda ripped away from it.
Yeah.
50 Hondas for one Tesla or whatever that evens out to.
Yeah.
Oh man, and right now for the climate that it is, and the popularity of hockey growing, the
Mhm.
way that people are starting to actually really get into it, I wonder if we couldn't see some type of XFL situation here. Um, the World Hockey Association returns, something nutty. Of course, it's owned by the NHL, but you know what I'm saying? A new up and coming league.
I think we're quite a ways off. I mean, they can't even get it to work for football, which is the most popular sport. Um, it would be doubly hard to do it with hockey, although they have not. This is more of an apples to oranges comparison. The NWHL, the women's league, is going to have all their games broadcast on like the NBC suite of apps.
Yeah, which
So I
I'm
mean,
thrilled
it's
for
great.
that. It's going to be awesome.
I tell you what, of all the women's sports, my favorite is hockey because it is, comparison wise, the between men's and women's sports, I think is the most translated, best translated between the two sports, between men's and women's. Um, I have a blast watching women's hockey. It's great. Um, I love watching women's volleyball too, but that's another story. Um, but we I don't know. I just don't see you know I think it's because we have the presence of minor leagues um and the juniors. You have those junior leagues in Canada. Those are going to be the popular thing
I
to
think that the good comparison here, though, is football doesn't have minor leagues.
yeah.
Football has college, and they care a lot about college football. Hockey has college, and that's what you do until you can get into the ECHL.
Yeah.
You know, so the balance isn't there as much.
There isn't, but I just don't think that there is enough clamoring for that, kind of rival league or even a developmental league that runs well. Plus, with hockey, it's such a long calendar that you don't have like with football, you have from February off until August. You've got a good stretch in the calendar to put a rival league in there. The NHL on a normal season is off from mid June until mid September, and you've got a short window to have an off season league that doesn't compete uh,
Right.
with the NHL. Um,
The saving grace for the idea of another hockey league, if there's one thing that you could really give credit to, if you had one of these, giant owners come forward and say, sort of like the XFL did, I want to bring back old time hockey. If you had somebody come out and sweep concussion protocol under the rug and somehow get by with it, and
I don't know, man.
I could see it. I really could.
I could see it, but that's uh, the way things are going now. The way that we're so happy and
That's true. Political climate too is
political climate. Well, and what we're understanding about concussions and how they affect beyond the playing career. I think that will not go over well. I mean, there's going to be a segment of people who are going to watch it. There was uh, MMA is a massively popular sport. Boxing is still a popular sport. There are people that are going to watch it, but um, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like seeing a really high skill player cutting across the center of the ice and the guy dive bombing him and hitting him with the shoulder and the side of the cheek and the guy twitching on the ice. You know it's a big hit and you're like, oh wow, but I just didn't like that. I mean, if I saw like a good clean open ice hit, yeah, like when Brian Campbell obliterated RJ Umberger in the playoffs.
yeah,
It was a clean hit. The puck was at his feet. He was looking down, and he just got caught. And that happens from time to time. And that's great. Those are great plays. I still feel for the player, that's laying on the ice, but that's a clean hit, and that's going to happen in hockey. The ones where the people go out of the way to do it. If you're when you're talking about old time hockey, you don't have people getting thrown out for jumping into fights and things like that, and having line brawls.
at the Winter Classic, that would have been a clean hit in old time hockey because nobody would have seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Cameras have done too much
yeah.
in favor of replays, and it's if nobody saw it, it didn't happen kind of thing. Why's that guy laying on the ice? We don't know. We're down here now.
Yeah.
You,
Well, and you also have two referees. Where back in the day, you only had that one referee, and they were
yeah,
watching the play. So if something happened behind him, oh well, no harm, no foul, or at least no see, no foul.
right.
Yeah,
It would be interesting to see fights actually come back, to see the re-rise of the enforcer. You know,
I mean,
I don't think it's going to die. I really don't. I think that it's going to come back around.
uh, yeah. I mean, I think you're going to see teams with a guy that's more of like a Ryan Reeves kind of guy who does have some scoring touch, but will drop the mitts. Um, but the problem is they're getting so swept under the rug in that juniors college conversion because they don't want that in the game down there. That
Right.
you're not identifying that they actually have scoring touch. They're getting swept off to the side and sent off to another division, or maybe they make the ECHL or whatever. But yeah, I mean those guys that can drop the mitts, protect those highly skilled guys on the ice. Yeah, you're going to see them come back, because I think you're going to see people continue to take advantage of those highly skilled guys.
Which, I mean, now today's tough guys are nothing. Even
Today's guys are just shit disturbers. They're guys that like Bergeron, or
look
not
at
Bergeron, but
Marchand.
Marchand. Yeah, he's just a shit disturber.
More than anything, I wished that Marchand would have got the C instead of Bergeron. Only because you imagine how lit up the league would have been.
Oh my God, yes.
Boston came out and they said that Brad Marchand is the new captain of the Boston Bruins. Everybody would have lost their
mind. Yeah.
That would have been one of the greatest moments in NHL history. Is pinning the C on Marchand's chest, hearing people's heads explode all over the country.
Oh yeah.
They should have dropped the C on April 1st and given it a go.
All right, man. Well, I think we've had a successful first show. It's gone almost 2 hours, but we didn't have any hockey tonight to go up against. So I've enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And I hope the people who have watched have enjoyed it as well.
Look forward to next week.
Yeah. So next week we'll be going on at 6:30. We'll have some games to talk about that have happened that morning, or 1 o'clock. We'll also have a couple days worth of games that have happened. Maybe some storylines, maybe some things have cleared up, and we know what's going on with like the Dallas situation and all that stuff. But I appreciate everybody for watching. And you got anything else to say, Travis?
Yeah, I'm super excited to see this first week of starting goaltenders.
Yeah.
I think this first week of starting goaltenders is going to completely make our lists of playoff.
Blow them out of the water.
Yeah. I mean, everything could turn on its head, man. You see one or two good guys come up, or you see some AHL callbacks from some of these, and it really could just rewrite the history of it right now.
Yeah. And of course, injuries are going to play a massive factor in what's going on. So, all right, sir. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank everyone for joining us online tonight. And I'll be checking. StreamYard's supposed to have a feature where I can check messages, but I didn't get any comments tonight, and I'll check on our post to see if we have any comments. But we'll do more fan interaction as we go on. But everyone have a great night, and we'll see everyone next week. Take care, everybody.